Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. It's the most important part. I'm Paul Sanneman. I'm your host. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source. We help contractors build great teams. My guest today is Henry Chidgey from Henry Chidgey. I hope I got it right. Coaching. So Henry, you always said, I can help you become the leader people want to follow. That's like the tagline on your site. So one of the issues I've been coaching forever, is trying to take a person who's a tradesperson or craftsperson, like a carpenter, plumber, whatever, a home builder, and transforming them into an entrepreneur and a leader. That's a tough transition. So how do you take somebody who's been a carpenter, as an example, like building houses, and now wants to run a remodeling company? I mean, how do you help them make that mental transition from from a craftsman to an entrepreneur?
Well, when you say he wants to run that kind of company, that's the most key element in all of that, because if they don't want it, there's nothing I can do to help it. So, but you're right, when they want it, now what you do is you teach them about the difference between leadership and doing. All of a sudden, as a leader, the first thing that happens is you think you need to continue to make sure your people are doing it well. You got to help them do it well. And usually that's the kind of stuff that gets in the way of your people learning and growing and becoming what you think they have the potential of. But in your hope to help them, you actually stop them. So it's this whole idea of shifting your mindset as a leader where, and I like to tell them this one, especially when I'm first talking to them. I said, as the leader, you're responsible for everything they do. There's no way you can get out of that. You are the leader. That means you own what they do. Now, your job is to figure out how to have them be successful so you're successful. You don't get to do it the other way. You don't get to do it by fear, intimidation, doing it for them. You've got to get out of the way.
When I was a coach, I had a saying that, beatings will beatings will continue until morale improves, right?
And you see that, especially in the smaller, medium-sized businesses like we run into, right? The folks really haven't even been in a situation where they've seen how that works. They've been doing the work. They were successful at that. They had the tenacity to, when things failed, they just get back up and try again. And that's probably why they succeeded. All right. And so the coaching it's my reason for being here in life. All right. It's like I started as a skilled blue collar worker. I had what people looking from the outside would say was great success. Looking from the inside through my eyeballs, I failed a bunch, right? There's a bunch of things that didn't work. Right. They worked suboptimally, is what I like to say nicely. I got other ways of saying that in other places, but it's what they need as a leader, but it's also what their people need. They need that leader to be the kind of leader that they want to follow. It's like if it was turned around. That's why my tagline like that, right?
So, how do you beatings will continue until morale improves does not work. People leave. So how do you get them? I think a big issue, for example, is that everybody says delegate and elevate. Easy to say, hard to do.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
How do you get them to trust? I mean, one of the issues I've had in coaching was, I hired this project manager. He lost me $100,000. I fired him. I'm never going to trust somebody to do that again. You go, well, yeah, but you're trouble if you don't, right?
Well, it's someone judging rather than discerning what happened. It's like when he had that happen, he had a great opportunity to say, okay, what was the root cause of that, really? All right? That guy didn't show up in my company without me saying, yes, I want him in that job. Yes, he's here. Yes, I want him to be successful. So what really happened? And what can you learn from it? How do you have that particular outcome not occur again, at least for the same reason. It may occur again. If you have a coach, if you got a really wise coach, a coach will say, okay, and they'll show you a mirror, and you'll get a chance to see yourself, and you'll start to be able to see where you messed up, right?
Right.
But sometimes...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, it's, the thing with coaching, I'm sure you're familiar with it, is one has to accept responsibility, which is huge, right? And,
right.
Employees have only 3 problems. They're the wrong person. You hired them. They're not motivated. That's your problem. And not trained is your problem. They're all you, right?
You're all you. You own it all.
But getting the leader, to accept, take responsibility, and actually act on, building a great team. I find that, I'll give you an example. Working a lot of contractors, they have a marketing budget. They don't even have a recruiting budget, right? To me,
That's right.
The most important thing you can do is build a team. I use the example of Elon Musk. He's a smart guy, but he's great at building teams, right? So
that's right.
Unless you get that skill to build a team, you're stuck. So
right.
How do you get the skill to build a team? What does that look like? What do you read? What do you study? How do you make that transformation?
So what I suggest to people and what I support them in is that they first of all decide what success will look like for them and really think about that. Like, how will I know I got there? Many people have success means more. That's not a real good success formula, right? It's like, what will success
more, you'll never
look
have
like?
enough. I'm sure you've heard that, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so many, I think 80% of the people I talk to, what's your success? Well, I want to have more, in some other words, right? But it ends up being that. There isn't a number where, oh, that's enough. Or there isn't a number in a negotiation where, yeah, as long as I get that, I'm okay. Let's do that. That's a win-win for everybody, right? Not common, but that's what great leaders do. Great leaders are not trying to squeeze every drop out of the lemon. They're trying to have a lemon that feeds a bunch of people and have it where you can come back and get more. And so with a leader saying, okay, how do you get them where they take responsibility? That's part of my role, is to be that mirror and say, what you're doing is you're blaming them and yet you're responsible. How does that work out? Is that really what you want to do? All right. Does that make sense to you? Is that what you would want your boss to do to you? If you had a boss, and you don't right now, but if you did, is that what you want? What would you want? Or would you want them to treat you with trust and earn your trust? Would you want them to respect you? Would you want to be able to count on them as having integrity? They do what they say they'll do. And then, are you part of something that has a bigger purpose than just making money? Like you're fulfilling on something. Many of my clients, they have really important roles, right? Everything from picking up the trash to mediating asbestos. But that's a bigger picture, not just about making money.
Well, then, now, as a coach, there seems to be a fine line, and I'll tell you the line I'm talking about. Well, you need to be honest, truthful, just say, look, you messed up, and here's where you messed up. So you got to tell them, dude, you should never hire this guy, and this is what you did wrong, boom, boom, boom. But at the same time, you're an employee in a way, right? You're not their boss. So you have to ride a line between being critical, for lack of a better term, giving them honest feedback and not getting fired yourself, because they shoot the messenger, right? We've seen that happen. So how do you find that line? Because I know when I was coach, it's like, well, I'm going to tell this person this marriage sucks, but I don't know how to tell that and not get a lot of trouble, right? It's like, oh my God, don't want to go there. So how do you do that? Because I always find that as a coach was a challenge.
I think and what I teach my clients and what I do myself is a coaching style is not a preaching style. All right. Preaching is you're telling people what to do. Coaching style is, I in my heart believe they probably know the answer and they're struggling to get to it or embrace it. Right. And so I lead them, and that's referring back to my being a mirror as a coach sometimes, where my job is to allow them to see themselves so they can have that light bulb go on and say, well, wait a minute, that's within my control. I can do that. I can make that happen. And yeah, there's some risk to it, but there's risk to everything we do in business.
But you have to have that aha experience, whatever they call that, right?
Yeah, you do.
And
you really do.
One of the things I did as a coach, I thought was interesting. I would say, give me the 5 things you're doing to sabotage your business and the 5 things you're doing to make it work. I have almost run across everybody I know knows what they're doing wrong. They go, well, I'm not hiring people well. I'm not paying enough money. I'm working too much, not spending to my family. I'm, not treating people. They know, right? But getting them to change their behavior, that is the challenge, right?
I only think those are habits. I actually did a recent article where I talked about people hoarding their authority, hoarding their micromanagement, all that stuff. It's almost like they're hoarders, but they're hoarders inside the business. And I'm not going to let that go. I don't trust that to go, all that kind of stuff. But you got the way I teach them or mirror them or sometimes show in a window to new ideas. This is a new idea for some of them. I say, here's the thing. If you're doing something that is not serving you, the real root thing you got to work on right now is to really get in touch with what that's costing you in terms of your time, your freedom, your emotional mannerism, all that. What's it costing you? It's the same with any habit, because it's a habit, and when people don't let go, it's because they're afraid. And so you're working them to be past the fear, to say, well, if it hurts that bad, I can push through that. It's worse than what I'm doing over here.
Well, and besides pointing out the cost sometimes, you need to point out, I would say, what are you getting out of it, right? I mean, there's got to be some payoff. You don't become an alcoholic and don't like to drink, right?
Well, it's almost all the same, though. It's a simple answer. They don't feel like they're really responsible if that person messes up. If you take on a leadership role that says, I really am responsible for my people's success because I benefit from it, but really that's the truth of it. That's what leaders do. And if you can't embrace that and find that in yourself, I don't think you ever get to the kind of leader you have the potential to be. You got to do that. And that's where you and me, when we're coaching, that's I'm being straight with love. I'm a hard straight, but I'm doing it with love. And I'm not judging them. I'm just pointing to what it looks like you're turning the wrench backwards. That's all.
Well, I thought, I had a person that was one of my mentors, and she said, the difference between judgment and discernment is judgment, you're making an evaluation. That was a bad idea. There's some kind of good, evil thing. Like, you're not.
Yeah, that's right. It's good, right and wrong, good or evil, right? That's what that is.
But discernment is merely pointing out the consequences of behavior in advance. Like, if you do that, these 3 people will quit. I'm not saying them quitting is good or bad, but if you treat them this way, they're all going to quit. Now, if you want to deal with that, that's fine. That's your decision. But this is the consequence if you treat. Discernment is pointing out the consequence of behavior in advance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's also you not being a judge. I don't think judgment has any role in effectively dealing with other people. Because as soon as I start judging, I'm putting myself in a superior position. Somehow I know something they don't know. I have more wisdom than they got. I get as much out of coaching a person as I give them. Because that resistance it builds in me.
The other thing is, you go, I call it the attack defend cycle, right? So if you attack somebody, all they're going to do is defend themselves. Well, yeah, but my dog ate the homework, my mom beat me when I was a kid, the president's an idiot. I mean, pick one, right? But,
that's right.
they'll defend themselves as opposed to listening, right? And when you're in attack, that's what you're going to do. And the attack defend cycle, unfortunately, escalates, ends up in wars, literally sometimes. Because you attack, they defend, you attack, they defend. Pretty soon, nothing happens. And I think the way to avoid that, I agree with you, is you not to judge them to begin with, and they don't see it as an attack.
That's right. And I think, and this doesn't happen in blue collar worlds where people talk about this very much, but I think real love, has a place in leadership and working in the skilled blue collar trades. And, you know, people don't talk about it much. They don't really need to talk about it much, but you need to have it somewhere in your heart when you're doing the work.
Because, you know, I think there's only two major motivators, fear and love, A or B, right?
Yep.
And if you're in fear, your performance is not going to be that great. I mean, you're just going to do the minimum, and you're not a great leader. It's running an organization run on fear, and obviously dictators have tried that a lot. It eventually collapses. If it doesn't collapse, everybody suffers, including the people that are running it, right? Where you run an organization on love, it's a different, everybody feels good, they have a good day, they work together, you know, it's like a family. And to me, I don't know a good leader that doesn't run on love and not fear. Good leaders do not run on fear.
No, they don't. Because the most you can hope for in a fear-based environment is compliance. Basic compliance. That's the best. And that's not where you get your grade. That's not what leaders are looking for. They're looking for
I was using an example that you have an employee, right? And there's a 110 volt plug and a 220 volt plug. And the appliance you're using is 110, right? And the leader says, put that in the 220, and you go, no problem, right? And it blows up and you go, not my fault. You told me to do it. I just follow directions, right? And so I think, you know, here, this is a really good thing people should know, Henry, but if they want to work with you, I mean, I think choosing a coach is sort of like choosing a spouse. It may be a little extreme, but you got to like each other, you know, and if you're getting coached and you're not looking forward to the call, he's the wrong coach. Like, oh my God, he's going to beat me up again. Can I avoid this phone call, right? So you need to find a coach that you like, that you trust, that you feel love for lack of a better term, as you put it, where there's an ongoing supportive relationship. You're looking forward to the phone calls. You're looking forward to, you have a friend, you know their interest and your interests are the same. They're looking out for your best interest. It's not just about making money. And if you don't have a coach like that, I think you have the wrong coach, in my opinion. So I agree. If people can relate to you, Henry, and feel like you'd be a good coach, where do they go from here?
Well, what I suggest you do is you just send me an email and tell me what you're interested in. I also have a little perk for you listening to this podcast. In the last month or two, I created a GPT that runs on ChatGPT, on the free version of it, so you don't have to pay anything. It's free from me and free from chat, right? Right. And I'll send you that. And what it does is it allows you and your supervisors, they can put it on their smartphone, and it's like you got me in your hip pocket. And I never know what you ask, never know what you say. Nobody else does. And you talk to that GPT and you tell them what your problem is. And then when they say something and it doesn't make sense, or I say something through the ChatGPT, or it doesn't seem right to you, push back. And that's where the learning occurs. Right in that moment, and I'll provide the things you might want to say. So you create
sort of an agent, right? Like an agent that's
it's an agent. You know, it's an agent.
Your, you know, your avatar. I know 𝗪𝘃𝗃 did the same thing. It's really good because what happens is you have you on their phone, right? And so I'm about to walk into this house. I noticed that, you know, the dog almost bit me and the yard's a mess. What should I talk about? And it'll tell you what to talk about, what not to talk about, to develop a relationship with this person. So I think that's a great idea. And I think, you know, if you not looking to if you have a coach and you're not looking forward to the phone call, I would call Henry. Or if you don't have a coach, I think it's a great idea. So Henry, I appreciate you being here. And I think if you listen to this podcast and you relate to Henry, that's the guy I want on my team. You should give Henry a call.
I'd be happy to help anybody out there that really wants to grow and learn. And most everybody that calls me, they want to, because I'm not gentle. Okay, I love, but I'm not gentle. You know, I help you move quickly, just like I always did when I was running operations.
Okay, well, thank you, and I appreciate you being here.
All right, thank you. Have him, Paul.